Hello, friends, and welcome to the lesson on reconciliation. As Paul told us in 2 Corinthians 5, we are ministers of reconciliation, and this lesson is a great opportunity to fulfill that role. Now, in prepping for this lesson, I thought about the movie Karate Kid, the original from 1984, so stick with me for a second. This is where Mr. Miyagi teaches Daniel karate. It started with Daniel doing all sorts of manual labor. Remember, sand the floor and paint the fence and wax on, wax off. He thought it was a waste of time until Mr. Miyagi showed him that by putting all those moves together, he now knew karate. These past few lessons, we've been learning the moves of peacemaking, and in this lesson, we are going to put them all together. Forgiveness, making amends, and now reconciliation. Reconciling with your spouse is simply reaching agreement that a conflict between you is settled. All has been owned, confessed, and forgiven. You both agree that sin from the past won't hinder your future together. From a facilitation perspective, this lesson is different from others in that you are not necessarily looking to discuss answers to the questions. You want couples to share their experience exercising the process. You want to ask open-ended questions like, hey, what was easy or difficult about the process? How did you feel afterwards? How can you begin to make this a regular practice in your marriage? Now, if couples want to discuss their answers to the questions, certainly do it. You're past the halfway point of the group, so I suspect that most couples are feeling pretty comfortable sharing. But for some, the discussion might be a little raw or even unfinished. So be sensitive to their willingness to share specifics. There are a couple of challenges that often come up in this lesson. The first challenge is found in the truth about marriage at the bottom. Some spouses are skeptical about reconciliation because they think it means that everything is now okay in the relationship. In other words, I can say everything is reconciled, but still have concerns that the conflict might happen again. Well, it might. The truth is that a reconciled relationship does not necessarily mean that trust has been rebuilt. That may take time, and that's normal. The second challenge is for spouses that find themselves in the last section when conflict is unresolved. A couple might go through the entire peacemaking process, and one of them does not completely own their part. This will frustrate the spouse who has owned their part, and they probably listed that frustration in action item 2. Now, for the spouse who owned their stuff, there's 3 things to encourage them with. First, acknowledge their hurt and remind them to stay open to reconciliation. Pray that the Spirit moves in the heart of their spouse and brings them to the point of confession. Second, stay inside your circle. Forgive your spouse for their sins, confess your own sins, and make amends for them. Your actions might be just the thing that the Spirit uses to soften your spouse's heart. Third, if your spouse is not seeing their sin, there's a process to confront them. Lesson 13 has a section on confronting sin that you can reference, plus an example at the end of Appendix D. This week, double down to pray over your couples. The enemy wants things kept in the dark, and this week especially is an opportunity for couples to bring things into the light and work through them together. At the end of the lesson, I hope your couples have a healthier view of how to resolve conflict. Look, we all know that conflict in marriage is inevitable and has the potential to divide us. But by using these tools, conflict becomes an opportunity to drive us towards oneness. This week, let's be ministers of reconciliation.